So this weekend we had a lot of homework. So I just want to give you an idea of the amount of homework that can show up for a elementary school first grader over one weekend when they're still in like the first trimester of the first year of elementary school. So my son gets home, he has a notebook where the teacher will tell everybody at the end of the day, this is your homework and this is your what you need to tell your parents. This is that, and basically what you did today, your homework, what you need to bring the next day, and anything else that they need to remember. So it's all laid out in the notebook, and the kid writes it by hand themselves. Well, it's not a bad setup, a good writing practice and everything, but we had a lot of homework. So it looked like it was just three pieces of homework, which for the weekend isn't too much, but still. First, there was a math and Japanese worksheet, just a piece of paper, front and back. I think math on one side, Japanese on the other. Um, not, he doesn't enjoy doing those, but not too tough. If we don't worry about the amount of time it takes him to get started doing homework, which, you kind of have to think about. But if you don't think too much about that, then really it's just, I don't know, like 10 minutes worth of homework. And then he has reading practice. And this reading practice, there's actually three different things that he has to read. One is just a sort of a thing on a piece of paper. The others are two stories in books. The stories aren't so long, but overall it's going to take um, probably like 10 minutes just to read all those. If again, excluding the time he says I don't want to read, maybe throws the book around or something like that, right? And then the third piece of homework that we had was to check the classroom portal site for other tasks. And so, you open the site, and there were five more pieces of homework there, five more tasks. So, first one was a net moral site. So, you have to find this site too. You open it, and you have to watch five videos. Each video is like roughly 4 minutes long, five videos. So, that's 20 minutes again of just the actual watching. And then you have to take little quizzes on them. And the quizzes themselves are pretty easy, except there was one question that said, which of the following is incorrect? And my son just didn't bother reading the question. And he reads the first possible answer. It sounds right. So he selects it and he's, oh, no, right? This sort of thing comes up. I think that happens to a lot of people often, but you got to read the question, right? Unfortunately, can't always save time just by skipping the question. But this, right? I don't know. Again, that's 25, 30 minutes worth of homework right there. And then we're supposed to get some pictures of a plant and some wildlife. So, this is kind of like a free type of homework. So the plant, it was like a plant that everybody in the school had been raising themselves. Morning something, asagao. I don't know the English name. Morning face. No, but there's a plant that it blooms only in the morning normally, and you have to take a picture of the plant, and you also have to take a picture of some wildlife. And I think the wildlife can be anything, but you have to upload them. And this is in preparation for some summer homework that's going to be coming out, or that they're going to have to do later. But then after you take the pictures, you have to find like the upload location, and there's a file which is kind of like it's basically like a PowerPoint-ish file. So you have to learn how to insert the images into that PowerPoint-ish file, insert them, and then upload the file, and you're done another piece of homework. So this took a little bit of like looking around. So it's more on the parent side of trying to figure out where things are, because it is very vague in the actual homework. They don't provide direct links to any of these, so you always need to, even for like the net moral site, you have to look through their web of portals, and they have like 30 different links to all these sites and everything. But eventually you find them, you kind of get used to it a little bit. I honestly think that a lot of other kids have not done the weekend homework this weekend because it's just so hard to even find it. And then we had we're supposed to film the reading practice. We found film the reading practice. So I have a little note here at the bottom, if already completed, which we'd already done the reading practice. And, we only had to film one reading practice, but it was the longest passage, the longest story. So, um, my son wasn't happy that he had to do it twice, but I said, hey, you've already read this passage, you know the story, and usually over the course of like 2 or 3 weeks, the kids have to read the same stories every day a few times. So I said, you've already read this story like, 10 or more times. I think you know the story. You've even read it earlier today, or it might have been the previous day. So this was the weekend homework. Um, so I said, let's try something different. And I had my son go outside, stand on a block in the air, blindfolded, and him reading the story from memory alone. And he did it pretty well actually. So it was, but this is like a 5 minute video, and I only had to help him like with 2 or 3 words that he forgot or got wrong. Everything else he could pull from memory, so it's a good practice there. But you know, you have to film the reading practice on their little tablets, and even for me, I come from an era where we did not. A lot of kids didn't even have computers at home, let alone computers that they uh, could use at school, especially like computers that they could bring home from school and use at home. This is unheard of back in when I was a kid. So, you know, now first graders, every first grader has their own tablet computer, pretty good one, like a Chromebook, that they use, and it comes with camera front and back, and it's, yeah, I mean, the amount of things that they need to learn to be able to use this is already impressive. And then this web of portal sites that the, I guess, not only the kid but the teacher or the parent and that teacher too needs to understand for this is pretty wild. But yeah, you have to film the reading practice on that tablet. Then, as usual, you have to find where you're supposed to upload it because they never really make that 100% clear. Then you have to upload that reading practice video somewhere. So it's, again, this the actual filming itself. When I filmed my kid blindfolded, standing on a block in the air, reading a passage from a book, um, it was it was at least 5 minutes. And my son doesn't go to like any specialty school or anything. I mean like what do you call them? The schools for the gifted, like Xavier School or anything like that. So this is just a normal elementary school that they do all this. You know, it's not like uh, he's number one in the, he's going to the number one elementary in the country or anything like that. It's just a regular elementary school, right? So the amount of stuff that you're supposed to do is pretty wild. But we're not done yet. Then there were some math drills that they give you a link, or well, they don't actually give you a link. You have to find it, open the open this other site, and do these math drills. And then that one was, once you find the site, it's pretty easy. That's about it. There's a couple math drills, 2 math drills that you do, then you're done. They were pretty easy, just like um, size and shape questions. So very easy stuff. But then we had more math drills. These ones were also easy, but they said on the site they had to check the math book, and they gave you the pages in the math book. Then you open the math book and you have to find QR codes in the math book, in the physical book. So you check your note, it tells you to go to the site, you open the site, it tells you to open the math book, you open the math book. The math book has QR codes. You take the computer again, you scan the QR codes, and then you go back to the math book, or sorry, you go back to the computer and you complete these math drills on the site. And it was, that's, I mean, it's pretty complicated. Like doing all this. This is just one weekend's worth of homework, and there's homework every day. So I just want to go over that the kids, this every school is a little bit different. I've heard that there's actually schools that don't give out any homework, but I assume that the school mic is closer to the average, maybe slightly above average in terms of how much homework they actually get. I don't really have a ton of data to compare that to. Just a few people that I know who have kids going to schools in other places, and it seems like it is not only a lot but very complicated. Like I just said, right? Notebook, computer, textbook, QR codes, computer. So, and the kids are supposed to be able to do this themselves, I guess, but I don't think that's happening yet because it's pretty complicated. Anyway, just a update on like what kind of things that they're doing, how the homework works, and I thought this was kind of interesting to see how difficult it is. So this here, a single weekend of homework. That's it. Anyway, please like, subscribe, and level up.